welcome, John. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how interesting or valuable I'm going to prove to your listeners, but the American dream is a lot to live up to, my friend. We'll do our best.
You're doing it. You're doing it. You have an awesome brand.
Thank you.
And it's very clear that everything you're doing is how would I say it? Is retro the word? Just classic American?
I
don't know what to categorize you guys as.
I don't know. It's good. I like it. I don't like to be put in a box and close the lid and I'm stuck there. I like to be able to go wherever the inspiration takes me, man. So if it comes out as retro or classic Americana, that's fine if you want to call it that. And next week it may be, paisley and pink. Who knows? So it is what it is. I don't focus on defining the brand image so much as I aspire to creating an aspirational brand, if that makes any sense.
Sure. So what's your 30,000 foot view? What's your story and intro to the cigar industry?
So basically, I reached a point in my life many years ago where I made a firm decision to stop chasing the bag, stop chasing the dollar, and just really listen to my gut and see where it takes me, not worrying about money, and just go, okay, what is it that if I could wake up every day and do, I wouldn't feel like I got a job. It's fun. I get to do it. And I literally spent a lot of soul searching time, and I kind of narrowed down the draft board to things that had an agricultural element to them, that were handmade, that had romance and tradition. Those were the key points on my whiteboard of what would define my career, so to speak. And I narrowed it down to wine and cigars. And I chased after it. And at that time, there was no, there was no want ads for guys to work in the cigar business or anything like that. So I kind of did it the old school way, started just putting it out in the universe, writing letters, getting rejected by everybody. And
what year?
This was in 95. Okay. 95, going into 96. And I landed upon, or they landed upon me, a company called CAO International that was based out of Nashville, and gave me a shot. I started off as a shipping manager just to get my foot in the door, but I was so convinced that okay, I know I can do something in this business because it's really in my heart to do it. I fell in love with cigars. So that's what happened. I started off as a shipping manager for CAO back in the day, and quickly and rapidly worked my way up the food chain. Like within 5 months, I was promoted to director of promotions and public relations. And then in short order, I became chief marketing officer. And then there was a restructuring and I became the director of lifestyle marketing. But always having my hand in the product development mix. That's what really kind of got my juices flowing. And that ride lasted until 2010. My last day at CAO was December 17, 2010, and December 21st, I took my first meeting with my business partner, Mike Conder, and February of 11, we announced Crown Heads, and Crown Heads started shipping cigars in November of 11. So a little over 10 years ago, we've been doing this, which in this industry, for people that don't know anything about premium cigars, it's like dog years. So if you could make your brand last and be relevant for 10 years, it's like 70 in any other industry. So I'm proud of what we've done so far.
Yeah, it's been great. So to go back before CAO and before you started reaching out to these brands, was cigars something you've just been into since you can remember, or what sparked that?
I had the usual casual relationship with cigars, like anybody else. Like in college, you're smoking backwoods and playing poker, and you think you're a big guy or something. Sit around drinking tequila and smoking cheap cigars. What really got me, it was all by happenstance. I had recently moved from LA to Nashville, and I was going back to San Francisco to visit my family, and I wanted to pick out a gift, like a guy's gift, so to speak, for my father. And I was driving and I noticed this cigar store called Uptown Smoke Shop. And I said, hey, cigars would be kind of a cool thing. So I walk into this store and it was like this epiphany. Like, it sounds really corny and cliche, but as soon as I walked into the humidor and the smell, the aroma of like the cedar mixing with the tobacco, and I was just like, it was like, boom, light bulb moment. Like, I'm home. This is where I'm supposed to be. Literally, it happened like that. And so I went through the selection of cigars with one of the retail clerks, flew to California, smoked some cigars with with the old man, and then I come back here, and then I'm like, I got to get into this. And I found a magazine, Cigar Aficionado, in a wine store, ironically. And I bought it and I read it front to back. And I would start to go back to Uptowns, and whatever money I had left over at the end of the week, I would, put my dollars together and go buy cigars based on the ratings and try to develop my palate, take notes, paste the bands in the notebooks, all that kind of a thing. And that went on for the better part of a half a year. And I'm like, I got to get into this. I got to figure this out. And the last page in that magazine was an ad from a company that was called CAO International, and it was 830 Kendall Drive, Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm like, well, shit, I'm in Nashville. This is right. So cold call to the company, and I leave several messages or write letters. It's crickets, and I'd been rejected by everybody. Not even that smoke shop would hire me for $7 an hour as a clerk. I couldn't get arrested. And then about 4 months later, I get this phone call on my voicemail at my job, and it's Jono, rest in peace. And he's saying, yeah, I just need somebody. If you want to help out, just come in and we'll interview. And I did. And I went in there and I interviewed and came back for a second interview. And I said, look, just pay me the chump change I'm making now at this temp job, and let me try to, prove myself here. And that's how it started. And as I started on April the 15th, 96 with CAO.
That's awesome. Why Nashville?
Why Nashville? I was born and raised in San Francisco, moved to LA when I was 17 to go to college, stayed there for a dozen years. And LA just started to really just grate on me. I mean, it beats you up, unless you're wealthy and you can live in Malibu and then it's a great place. But when you're living in a 500 square foot bachelor studio in West LA, and then eventually in the Valley, and you're living on peanut butter and bread, it's a tough grind. So I ended up had the opportunity to move to Nashville, did that, and as they say, everything happens the way it's supposed to.
Because you're pretty rooted there now.
Very, very rooted there now. I don't see myself. It's kind of like Stay Who Brought You to the Dance, and Nashville's been very good to me and my family. No, not to say I'm going to be here for forever, but I do have aspirations of living in other places, but not right now.
Yeah, a few months back, I was talking to your sales rep, Dave, and I was talking about him introducing us, and then talking about getting involved with Crown Heads and doing some content with you guys. And he's like, one thing to note, you're going to have to do it in Nashville if it's not virtual, because you're not going to get John to leave.
No, that's very true. That's for a myriad of other reasons. But yeah, I don't travel very much. Even before the pandemic, to be perfectly honest. And when I do travel, if I have to do like the PCA show or the TAA show or whatever, it's I kind of joke and say it's in my rider, but my wife and my daughter come with me wherever I go.
That's awesome.
I'm like the country music artists that they have the bus with their family on it. That's kind of my gig. Like, I just don't want to be without them like for a minute. So.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So talk about the brand. You have really unique branding, and what I find interesting about Crown Heads is you look at the facings on the shelf, and they're so different. You've got Las Calaveras, that's behind you.
Yeah.
Juarez, they're kind of in that similar vein, maybe. Would you say?
No, I think you're absolutely right. There's nothing really. There's no connectivity between a lot of our brands, and that was intentional. I mean, honestly, like when Mike and I first started taking our meetings, and he said, "Do you want to do something?" He goes, "Absolutely." He said, "But with the caveat that I do not want to create CAO 2.0." And he's like, "Okay, go to town." And I deliberately and consciously created the brand Crown Heads to be as abstract enough and obtuse enough so that I would have the creative latitude underneath that umbrella to create different brands. And the way I pitched it to Mike was like, look, I want to create this band called Crown Heads. First album is not going to sound like the second album or the third or the fourth or the fifth. I want that creative latitude where I don't have to tag everything Crown Heads X, Crown Heads Y, Crown Heads C. That's the way I see it, and that's the way I want to do it. Whereas prior to that, like CAO, it was like we would take a theme, if you will, like let's say MX2, which is Maduro times 2, and then we would run it next with CX2, Cameroon times 2, and then LX2, Ligero times 2, and then you had CAO Brasilia, CAO America, CAO Italia. So you see where I'm going? It's kind of like this retread and threes. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something that was like what I was feeling at the moment. And that was 4 Kicks. And 4 Kicks looks nothing like Las Calaveras. And it looks nothing like La Imperiosa. It looks nothing like Jericho Hill and Mil Diaz. So, it was done that way intentionally, just because I wanted to have that creative space where I don't put myself in this Crown Heads box and I'm stuck, So that was really important to get out of the gate like that.
I've introduced so many people to Crown Heads over the years, and it's funny because I hand them a Mil Diaz, and then they're like, "What's this new brand, Mil Diaz?" And I was like, "Nope, that's Crown Heads." And then hand them Imperiosa, and look, that's Crown Heads. That's
well, to make it a little bit easier on the consumer level, we've started to put a footband on everything we do for the most part that says,
"Yeah, it looks good."
And it kind of is a nice way to tie everything together. Oh, this is a Crown Head cigar, because when we first started out, everybody thought we were 4 Kicks. I'm like, no, we're actually Crown Heads. There was a little confusion there. And then eventually, after doing it over and over and over, people realized Crown Heads was the company, and then we had different brands. So it's gotten easier over the years, but initially it was a tough way to start, for sure.
Right. What inspires your branding? Because like you said, it's kind of all over the place. Very well thought out. Super interesting. It definitely stands out.
I like and appreciate that you think it's well thought out.
it's
not.
If it isn't, it appears to be in your.
Then thank you.
Making a bunch of really clever accidents.
Yeah, that's a good way. I like that, clever accidents. No, man, like my inspiration comes from. I would honestly say it comes from everywhere except for the cigar world. Because I think if you're inspired by other brands or what anybody else is doing, you're just following the leader. You're not going to do anything different. So I take my inspiration from everything from music to art to skate culture to fashion. I mean, I'm constantly inundating myself with all kinds of outside stimuli, I guess, and not much of it comes from the cigar business, because I just don't want it to look and feel like everything else everybody else is doing.
There's definitely a range right now, especially right now in cigar branding. You have the super traditional, which I think needs to be there. I think it needs to keep the respect and tradition of where everything started.
Exactly.
And then you've got brands that are just the far opposite side of that, just completely modernized. Yours have this classic design, so it doesn't feel like it's a huge departure from historical bands and branding.
I definitely always have a conscious thing that I want to respect the tradition of the craft, because the romance of this craft, this art, is what got me excited about doing something. And my whole thing was like, my good friend is Pete Johnson at Tatuaje. He says, I've heard him use a quote before. He's like, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to put my fingerprints on it. So the wheel meaning like, classic Cuban cigars and things of that nature. And then I'm just trying to put my fingerprints on it in my own way. But like some of the stuff that comes out to me without naming names and pointing fingers is pretty much disrespectful to the brands that came before us, to even the guys that are still in the game today. Like I grew up literally in this business. Like my heroes were like Carlito Fuente and Padron Sr. and Fuente Sr., Ernesto Perez Carrillo. These were the guys that were like on my Mount Rushmore, And I see how they do it, and I'm like, I want to respect that, and not, some of the stuff that's been coming out in the last year is just, I scratch my head and go, really? I mean, did you need to do that? So, and maybe it has its place, and maybe there's a whole modern smoker that I'm not even aware of, but for me, there is that respect to the tradition and the craft, and then I'm just trying to put what's in my head there on it, kind of. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It looks great. Your brand's great. When it comes to blends, you're across the board. My first introduction to Crown Heads was the Imperiosa, and that was in a phase that I was like only smoking broadleaf, full bodied.
Yeah.
Lately, I don't know if it's a change in palate or just trying to explore everything that's on the shelf. Been veering back towards the middle. Mm-hmm. And then in the Crown Heads line, there's something there that's excellent. And then, like the Juarez, like fantastic. Mil Diaz. There's not many cigars that I've bought boxes of because I've had the opportunity to try so many. Mil Diaz, the first time I had it, I went and bought the box. And then the Magic House bought the box. Do you have, as a brand, like a profile you're trying to stick to? Or similar to Los Calaveras, where every year it's a totally different blend? Is that how you'd look at
I mean,
all of your releases?
The only thing I try to think of is like not to cannibalize our own portfolio too much. Yeah. But you can have more than one, for instance, broadleaf cigar, and it can be completely different. Like, we've done broadleaf with 4 different factories to this point, and each one of them has its own unique characteristic. I kind of think that like the domestic market smokes with their eyes. And by that, I mean, like everybody gravitates towards dark, like, they want it to be as dark, right? And so we followed that trend for a while. Imperioso was Habano Oscuro, very dark wrapper. We found that people really responded to the broadleaf stuff that we did, the San Andreas Mexican Maduro wrappers that we used, things of that nature. But then, I just get to a point where like I want to smoke something that's not dark, and it's something that I want to change it up. So I kind of validate blends based on what I'm feeling at the moment. And Mil Diaz is a prime example. It started off with a blend that I was given in 17, and I thought it was beautiful visually, but I just thought it was really aggressive on the palate. But I'm thinking, if we can massage this and just take it in a different direction, I think we might have something. And then, we played with it off and on with Tabacalera Pichardo and Luciano Morales over a period of about 3 years. And then I remember in January of 20, they sent me a recent sample, and I was just like, as soon as I smoked it, I said, game changer. I said, this will change the game for us. And it did. It really did. And I knew right then, as soon as I smoked it, it was like that aha moment, like, bam, that this is it. And I smoked that cigar probably more than anything. If it's got a band on it, that's what I go to. But lately, like everything I'm smoking in this season right now is unbanded. Mm-hmm. It's prototype. It's sample 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And it's a lot of product development right now. So, but yeah, I just try to just go with what I'm feeling at the moment. Like, I mean, not to get too far ahead of myself, but like this, we're doing a PCA exclusive in July that's unlike anything we've ever done. And I'm not trying to sell anybody on it, but it's a complete 180 from Strong Cigars. It's really mild, light, easily approachable cup of coffee. There's no edges to it. It's just very, and that's what I was feeling at the moment for that particular blend. I'm like, I want to smoke something like that. I don't want to smoke something that's like, you know what I mean? Because I think sometimes I think cigar smoking should be something that enhances your experience. It shouldn't be a challenge to get through a cigar where you got beads of sweat and you feel nauseous and like, oh wow, this is great because it's strong. And I don't think that's what it was meant to be. It should be something that has complexity, balance, richness. You can have strength without making yourself sick. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, I mean, we're all over the board with our blends, to be honest with you. I mean, we've been doing it long enough that we've done so many different variations on the theme, and we still haven't exhausted the possibilities. So it's always fun to create new things.
If you have the opportunity when you're not working to sit down with a cigar that's not your own, is there something you gravitate towards?
First of all, I smoke all my cigars here in the office. I don't smoke at home. I don't smoke around my family. When I go home, it's like separation of church and state. I'm not the cigar guy as much. I try to turn that off as much as possible. So when I'm smoking here, if I'm not smoking something from us, I'm a huge fan of pretty much everything Pete Johnson's done. Tatuaje. I love Illusion. I love Dion's Epernay. Pretty much anything new that I can get my hands on, I'll try. But those are the two mainstays. I'm a big fan of Willie Herrera, obviously. I love his style of cigar making. Like I'll call him up and just beg him, send me something to smoke, dude. I just want to smoke something different, and he laughs at me. And But yeah, those are kind of the guys I gravitate towards their styles. There's not a lot of new stuff that's come out in the last, say, 2 or 3 years that really kind of caught my eye. But those are two guys, Dion and Pete. Like, I think, for me, if there's a boutique, quote unquote, Mount Rushmore, those guys for sure.
Yeah, Dion, Pete, Nick Melillo,
Nicholas.
That's a brand. 100%. Nick and Pete.
Yeah, Nick
and the humidor at the shop near here. They're stacked on top of each other. And
Nicholas is like a tobacco scientist, man. That guy knows more about just the element of tobacco and agriculture and processing and fermentation than pretty much anybody I know in the industry that's a brand owner. I think he's
and he's excited about it. He's crazy busy, but he's like, if you get time to talk to him about that aspect of it, like, it's clear this is his passion.
100%.
And I don't see that.
I'll be honest with you, just speaking candidly, like, I don't think Nicholas got enough credit for when he was at Drew Estate. He was so behind the scenes at Drew that he never got his chance to really shine. And he deserves a lot of credit for everything from Liga Privada to Nica Rustica and everything in between. I mean, guy's genius.
Yeah.
Very smart dude.
Yeah, he's writing an article for us on just the process of seed to cigar. And I'm excited to see that.
Couldn't think of a better guy to
come together.
100%.
Right. For your brand or your career, or you pick, is there something that you have been wanting to do with the brand or wanting to do career-wise that you haven't been able to do that's still in your mind?
Not really. I mean, in terms of, like, am I at the end of the road with it? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, my goal for Crowned Heads was always beyond cigars. It was like, I didn't want to just be a cigar company, which is why we didn't call it like Condor Huber Cigar Company or something like that. I wanted to have a name that I could apply it. You know, Crowned Heads could be a spirit. Crowned Heads could be a wine. Crowned Heads could be a coffee. Crowned Heads could be anything. And, you know, for me, it's just about the creative process. And when we started Crowned Heads, I said, I want to make an aspirational brand. I don't want to necessarily make this, you know what I mean? I didn't want to make it just about, it's like Harley. I always use Harley as the fallback for this example, because the brand Harley Davidson and that logo, and it's so iconic that people everywhere resonate with that message, even if they don't ride or own a motorcycle. They aspire to that rebellious, that image, that free spirit. So you might, you know, somebody wearing a Harley t-shirt that never even owned a bike. That's really what I want to do with Crowned Heads. I wanted to say, okay, here are two guys from, you know, the South, not Cuban expatriates or anything like that, that have created a successful cigar business. So that inspires me as a person to go, why can't I create whatever I want to and put it out there? You know, you don't know until you try, kind of thing. And that's what I really wanted to do. That was my message with Crowned Heads. And that's why we use that whole carve your path mantra to this day. Because we said, when the rules don't make sense, and it didn't make sense for Mike and I to start this company at all. It made no sense. Probably, you know, destined for failure. But when it does make sense, carve your own path, make your own way, and then aspire to that. And that's really what means a lot to me. If I can inspire other people to follow their dream and their passion and create a livelihood out of it, then yeah, that is the American dream, right? So
yeah, you said you didn't have anything inspiring. There you go.
Well, you know, if I could just be an example of, like, yeah, you don't have to work for the man and to just get by. To me, that's like kind of a waste of life, and life is so fleeting and so precious. It really is. And you know,
it's funny that you brought up Harley. So I'm in Wisconsin, so they're in our backyard, so you can't avoid them. But we put this video together as an ad. Had a voiceover artist who's actually based in Nashville record for us. And when you talk about that free-spirited, just American grit vibe that Harley ads specifically give off, I have not yet linked the two, but the ad that we threw together, now that I think about it, I'm like, yeah, that fits. I have this queued up. I got to show you this.
Are we going to watch it now?
Yeah, check this out. Just a minute long.
Okay.
America has never been easy. Our forefathers were driven by the gritty desire for a better life. They were willing to work hard and sacrifice for it. This spirit is ingrained in every American, a little bit rebel, a little bit cowboy. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms have ridden alongside Americans through all of our chapters. From the Revolutionary War to Prohibition to the trade embargoes, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms have been a source of celebration and conflict. ATF is an American lifestyle magazine created for you by guys just like you. We uncover the stories behind true patriots pursuing their passions, those who still believe the American dream is alive and well because they are living it. Both the industry titans and the underdogs, creating truly great products out of passion and drive. Pour yourself a drink, light a cigar, and join us on this journey. Subscribe today.
Love that. I got goosebumps. I love that. That was.
Thank you.
Nailed it. Brilliant. I could not have encapsulated that in better than you did. What is it, 60 seconds or whatever? But
yeah,
beautiful. Makes me proud to like be doing what I'm doing. You know, it's cool. It's kind of like I got the same feeling. I remember. I think it was 96 or 7 or 8, right when I first got in. And the trade show wasn't PCA at the time, it was RTDA. So this is like, just to paint the picture, this is the big annual trade show. This is like, you know, what Magic is to apparel. This was to Cigars. Mm-hmm. So we go, we're in Vegas. And at that time, they used to have like guest speakers that would come up and talk during breakfasts during the convention. And I remember the first breakfast I went to, there was an actor by the name of George Hamilton. And he's like this old school Hollywood dude. He's like, I don't know if anybody knows him. He's the guy that was really perpetually tan. He's like, I think he, what did he do? Like he played Evel Knievel in the movie or something. But anyway, this guy gets up there and like an hour into his speech, I'm like, fuck, I am in the coolest industry in the world. I have the best job in the world, even though I was making like probably $30,000 or something. And I was so excited and proud to be associated with this business because this man just delivered this incredible speech about craft and romance and tradition and cigars. Kind of gave me the same feelings that did as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like, well, just a little bit of backstory. Like my niche outside of my day job for years has been photography and cigars. Mm-hmm. So when we threw this idea out there for the magazine and publication, it's myself and our designer and our owner at really focusing and curating this project and this magazine, and it's naturally fallen on the cigar side so far, especially just with a lot of the content and context and networking and just the whole thing, because that's what we knew, or that's what I knew. But it's so much broader than that. And I think we're going to see it flow as it develops, like especially for PCA, it's going to be a more heavy cigar issue. And then SHOT Show in Vegas in January, that's going to be a lot farther in on the firearm side. Mm-hmm. And the alcohol side, it all blends so well. And that's what we're aiming to do is how do we curate content that introduces someone who might be really into whiskey to cigars or to firearms, or how do we teach people how to use them safely, and understand the gravity of firearms and training and things like that, or just these the history and traditions of the significance, especially in American history, of whiskey and bourbon. Like it's so rooted. Oh yeah. And as these things develop, it's just taking these three categories and
and it's like them together so well. Those things like you just so eloquently did in that ad really are part and parcel of like the American culture and our history of hundreds of years as a country. And I think it's a good reminder to, you know, that these things have been around for centuries, you know, and it's just it's cool, you know, and you don't want to lose sight of that, where we came from. And it's nice that all three of those things are still part of our culture today, and hopefully will be for quite some time.
I feel like, I mean, it's been proven out in history through the prohibition and embargoes and things like that. The more they get pushed against, the more they open up and expand. And
we've gone through our thing as an industry because I've been doing this for half my life now. And I remember when S-chip came around and they were going to tax everybody was afraid that cigars would be taxed so bad that, they're going to go away and everybody's going to lose their job. And I'm like, and I always said, prohibition didn't work the first time and it won't work again. I said, you can't tell people in America what they can and cannot do. They have to be given the freedom of choice to make their own decisions. And so here we are still. We survived a lot of things, and we'll survive the FDA as well.
Yeah. What do you think people can be doing or companies can be doing to help continue to move the industries forward? Because that's a big piece of this. That's a big thing PCA tries to draw attention to.
No question. I mean, I kind of stay out of that lane. I'm not really a political activist kind of guy. I'm more of a creative kind of a guy. And so I don't really get that involved with it. And I tell, like Mike Condor, my business partner, he's like on a lot of different boards and all these things. And he's more tied to the political language. And I let him do that because I think if I get bogged down thinking about this FDA ruling or where they might go or, all of these things, deeming regulations, what have you, then I can't do my job effectively. I just kind of have to create with an open mind, and whatever happens, happens. But I feel very confident that, like I said, prohibition didn't work the first time. You can't tell people in this country what you can and cannot do. If you try to do that, you're going to get pushback, and it's going to be a revolt of some sort. We see it all the time in the news, So I don't really concern myself that much with it. I'm just kind of going until somebody tells me I can't, and then
not a bad thing.
Way to go,
So, about the topic of the American dream,
yes.
How would you define that? I feel like it has a basic definition of working or building up your dream, your business, your talent, whatever that is, from the ground up, and you putting in what you expect to get out of it. How has that influenced your brand, your career?
I think the American dream is a broad thing. Like what it means to me may not be the same to some other person. Somebody may think the American dream is getting a 9-to-5 and coming home and kissing your wife every night. And I think what the American dream is finding happiness, period. Hard stop. And what makes me happy is creating, right? So like if I can create a livelihood where I get paid literally to create, whether that be cigar brands or merchandise and apparel or design, whatever, that's what keeps me going. And I get paid for it. That's the bonus.
Yeah.
But, a big component of my personal American dream is my family, is my wife, is my kids. I go home and I smile when my daughter comes. I'm gassed at the end of the day. I mean, if I could tell you my schedule and you'd be like, oh my God, right? But when I go home and she's like full of energy and runs up to me, smiles, Daddy, dude, that's a big piece of the American dream. Having a wonderful wife and a great partner and a best friend. That's another big component of the American dream. So I've been blessed with those as well. It's not just about career. It's about, it's a bigger picture than that. I mean, so, I'd say wife, family, and then having a livelihood where I can feel like I'm not going to a job, like I'm getting paid to do what I love. So I've been very fortunate, knock on wood. If it all ended today, I'd feel pretty damn good about it, Yeah. So listen, I can juxtapose it with, I've had the other side of the coin where I didn't have the family, I didn't have the wonderful wife and partner, and I had some of the worst jobs you could imagine. I mean, when I was in LA, I was telemarketing dog shampoo and indoor sun. Yeah, literally. Like this is back in the day where all these starving actors would have you be in a cubicle. You sit there and you go through the cold call sheet and you call up like, da, 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 da. Hey, have you ever tried Mr. Crystal's indoor, candy supply? And da, da, da. It was horrible, man. I've had some really, really tough jobs. So I can appreciate what I have even more because I have, I've been on the other side of the coin where I hated my job. I hated a lot of things and I was pretty miserable, sad. So, I'm very happy today for sure.
That's awesome. Do you see where do you see yourself in 5-10 years, if that's even a thing in your mind, or do you have any goals coming up that you?
Yeah, I don't do the 5-year, 10-year plan thing. I try to stay in the moment. Like, how can I be the best today? Like, how do I always wake up and say, okay, how am I going to grow spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, and professionally? Those are the 5 things that I talk to myself in the morning about, like, how am I going to, and then at the end of the night, I come home and I go, okay, how did I do that? How was I better spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, professionally? And, some nights I don't check those boxes. Some nights I do. But I mean, I try to, like I said, stay in the moment. I don't go, in 5 years, I want to be on the cover of Cigar Aficionado magazine. I care less. 10 years, I want to sell the business. If it happens, it happens. My big thing is, like, stay on the board and ride the wave all the way to the shore. That's it, wherever it takes you, and just enjoy the freaking ride. Right. So
right.
That's really where my mindset is. I mean, I've had people ask me the question, like, would you sell the company and those kind of things. And it all comes down to monetary things. And that, while that's important, it's not the end all, because, like, I realize, like, today, if somebody gave me a check for 8 figures, I'd be calling my wife and go, let's go to dinner. And then probably in short order, I'd be like, what the hell am I going to do for the rest of my life? So I still need that creative outlet, so I don't know how long it'll be. I don't know how far the shore is away right now, but I'm going to stay on the board and enjoy the ride.
You mentioned your passion of wine earlier. Is that something you've ever pursued?
I pursued a lot.
Or want to?
Actually. Yeah,
not drink.
Yeah, I gave that up. Actually, it's ironic because we're talking about alcohol and tobacco, but I'm probably one of the few guys that I know in my circles that doesn't drink at all.
Okay.
I gave up spirits in like 17, and then I gave up wine and beer in 19 completely. So I haven't even had a Bud Light in 3+ years. Just because, and that decision for me, even though I really love, especially wine, like, I became a wino basically because I'd love to taste. I love the different varietals of grapes. I really went down that rabbit hole, but for me, it was like, it became like a filter, and I didn't want to filter my life experience any longer. Like, by that, I mean, like, you know what I mean? It was like, you want to celebrate. I would go, drink a glass of wine, and that kind of numbs you out. So you're not really feeling the celebration. If you're having a shitty day, you drink the wine and you try to numb it out. So you're not really feeling the shitty day. I wanted to go, okay, I'm at a point in my life where I want to feel everything, good, bad, and in between. So that's why I cut all that stuff out. And so now it's like coffee and cigars is about the only vice per se. Yeah, I love the aspect of wine, the wine making. I almost got into it for a living years and years ago. So I still admire that the culture, the craft, the agricultural aspect of it. Very similar in some ways to cigars and tobacco. I see the parallels, but I just don't indulge in it. So there's a long way of answering your question. No, I would probably never go that route because I don't use the product. And it's, to be authentic to me, you can't really sell something you don't use.
Yeah.
So I can't get, right? It's a lie. So, I mean, I can sell you this cigar because it's something I'm passionate about and I use, and I indulge in tobacco, but wine or spirits, I can never probably brand that now because I would be lying if I said, oh yeah, this has got great balance and da-da-da. Well, I'm not using the product. So that's probably out of the game.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. So I just I'm not my wife still enjoys cocktails and occasional wine and prosecco, but for me, I just abstain at this point. I always tell people I got too good at it. I had to retire my jersey.
There you go. You mentioned coffee, and you're in Nashville. You got some good coffee down there.
Yeah, they do. Nashville's got a lot of good things about it. The food scene's great. Coffees, all that. I mean, coffee is something that I've literally been using on a daily basis since I was in, I think it was first grade was when I started drinking coffee, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it was just part of I was just like, I would always have a cup of coffee with evaporated milk to sweeten it a little bit. And that was part of my breakfast every day as a kid. And I just thought every kid drinks coffee, right? And now that my daughter is going into first grade, I'm like, I would never give her coffee. What the hell were they thinking, you know? And but yeah, I've used coffee every day of my life. So it's something that I always.
So it pairs with cigars so well.
It does. That's what I'm drinking right now. A little coffee, sample blend. You know, now I drink it black when I'm smoking and tasting and stuff, and I don't use any sweeteners or any of that stuff. So yeah,
I've been getting lazy at home with coffee. I love coffee, but I've just been it's something.
Yeah, I get into it. One of my favorite coffee stories is one I heard about Tom Petty. Before he passed, he was very interested in coffee. He was chasing like this perfect cup of coffee, and he was like brewing it home and all this stuff. And so the story goes, he was in Malibu at this restaurant, and he was having breakfast, and he had this coffee, and he's like, this is what I've been looking for. This is the perfect cup of coffee. You have to take me into the kitchen and show me, what are you doing? What are you blending? What are you roasting? Come to find out, it was Folgers. And so
it's the experience.
Yeah. So he was like, you know, chasing this idea of this perfect cup of coffee, and it was Folgers in a can that they were using at this cafe in Malibu. So I always thought that was a great story.
There's places like Crema in Nashville that are just phenomenal, and then there's diner coffee. Two sides of the spectrum, but if both sides are positive, that's it.
If it gets the job done, you're enjoying it. That's all. And it's the same thing with cigars. I tell people, like, smoke what you like. You know, if it's not a Crown Heads, find something out there that you enjoy and expand from there. But
right,
you know, nobody should dictate to you like, oh, you should like this because it got a 92 rating, so you should like it. You might not like it, so find what you like. It's part of the experience. It's part of the journey.
Although I question people when they say I had my favorite cigar on the beach.
Worst place
when it's windy. Oh, it's terrible.
100%.
So it's like you didn't love the cigar. You love the memory the cigar brought you of the beach.
Bingo.
And that carries weight.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'll have those cigars where the experience around it's great, and then I go back and smoke it, and I'm like, this cigar sucks.
I can't. If I'm outdoors, it's a whole different taste thing. That's why I do everything in a closed environment, and I can actually taste it, and it's not windy. It's not. You don't have to deal with the humidity or the sun or the heat or the cold or whatever. So, right. I mean, that's one thing I kind of miss is like when guys tell me like they go home and they're in their man cave and they're having a cocktail and a cigar and they're just like kicking back. And I don't ever get to relish that experience. For me, it's really like work that I enjoy, but it's still work because I come in here and I'm running through blend samples and progressions and see how they change from week to week. And then I'll go back and I'll spot check a cigar from our humidor, see how this is doing and how that's doing, how's this aging. So it's not like I can just go back and go, yeah, I'm going to kick back and watch a movie, fire up a cigar.
Was that something you'd like to be able to do, or you just sort of worked out of?
Who wouldn't, you know, but it just didn't work that way. So it's the trade-off for me. I get to be employed in this business that I love, but I don't get the same experience that the end user might get. Let's just say that.
Right.
You know.
Right. As long as you still enjoy it.
I do, 100%.
I mean, I feel like the second all work is work, and you'll have the days that you don't enjoy, or the weeks, or whatever. Work's supposed to be hard. But when you lose the passion with what you're doing, find something else.
I've always said that, and Jono, rest in peace, he said that as well. He's like, look, if you get to a point where you don't love what you do, there's the door. Go ahead, no hard feelings. But if you're not enjoying this experience, you don't belong here. And I always remember that. And to this day, and I've been doing this since how I have not woken up once and gone, oh, I got to go to the office. This sucks. Fuck, man. What time is it? How many more days till Friday? You know, never had that. Not even once. You know, and to the extreme of that is like sometimes I'll wake up and go, I can't wait to get to the office and smoke that second blend that Ernie sent me because it's so good. And I've had that this week. In fact, I'm like, woke up and I was like, front of mind, like, man, I got to get back and see that sample. It's so fucking good. So yeah, I've been very fortunate with that for sure. But I do adhere to that. Like if this ever stops being fun and it gets to be a pain, I'll start exploring other things to do. But I don't think it's ever going to get to that because I've been doing it for 25, coming up 26 years. So
right.
Yeah, I haven't had that day yet. So
if you had a bad day or what you'd call a failure with a project, how do you define that? How
would I define
you have people that will their propensity is to try to achieve their goal. They'll set a goal. They don't make it. They just get like down in the dumps and they're like, no, that didn't work. And then they just bottom out.
Yeah.
Then the other side of it where don't reach your goal. And then that just fuels motivation to either try again or find a new goal and just run after it.
I would fall into the latter category. Although I don't really, I mean, there are some goals, but I think in my subconscious, my goal is to just be able to keep doing what I'm doing and enjoy the process. Right. So it's like, I don't have a hard set goal where I go, okay, I want to sell 1 million Mildias by the end of the year. I never really said that. I never really think that to myself. I just think, okay, if we're all happy here, we're enjoying this experience, everybody's paid, your benefits are good, everybody's enjoying the ride in our group and everybody's taken care of. I guess that's the goal for me, really. But I don't really sit around and make hard and fast life goals of like, I want to buy this or I want to do that. Or, I'm not that kind of person. I'm very focused about staying in the moment and just enjoying today because who knows if you're going to wake up tomorrow. And you just don't know. Not to be morbid or morose, but
no, that's life.
Nothing is guaranteed, and I just feel really strongly about that. And I try because sometimes I fail. Like yesterday, I remember saying, "God, nothing good happened yesterday." I was just in this shit mood, and it's just like it started tough and it ended tough. But I wake up, I'm like, it's a new day, it's a new opportunity, it's brand new. That's done, and it's in the record books. Let's go. So far, so
you can have the bad days or whatever's going on in life hit the bottom, and you're like, okay, this is good. I found the bottom.
I found the bottom a long time ago.
I can push up.
I'm at a point in my life where like I kind of look back and I go, there's nothing that somebody can do to me that I haven't survived. Because it hasn't all been wine and roses. I've had some really hard periods in my life personally that I was able to get through, and it motivates you to go, okay, come at me. Like there's nothing that you can bring that I haven't gone through, whether it be, lack of love, lack of money, lack of security, whatever. I've gone through all of that. And it's like, I'm still here. So you start to feel a little bit more confident.
Right. That's exciting. So in Nashville, if people come visit Nashville, I've been to 2 shops. That is true. When people visit Nashville, there's a lot of shops.
Yes.
I've only been to 2.
Which
Casa,
okay,
downtown, and then Smoker's Abbey.
Those are the
I think there's more than one of those. Are those the?
Yeah, I was going to mention those are the 2 that I always say for people to Casa because it's in a great area. It's in the Gulch. You can have a cocktail. It's a nice lounge setting. They carry a lot of different brands if you want that vibe. And then if you want the real like down and dirty tobacconist where you're going to get some really hard to find stuff, Abbey. Those always. And then, but there's plenty more than that. There's Nashville Cigar. There's Franklin Cigar. There's Belmead Premium Cigars. There's Blend. There's
I didn't realize there's that many down there.
There's a ton. There's and people, we still get new account applications. I'm like, where are they going to open this one? Like, it's a good town for cigars. It really is.
I know you guys do some Nashville exclusives.
Yes.
Are those only? I bought some at Casa.
Yeah.
Is that the only shop you do them at, or are they throughout the city?
No, we did do one for the Abbey called Sanctuary. That was, God, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. We did one for them. But we do Wabash Cannonball for Casa de Monte Cristo Nashville. And we also do 4 Kicks number 7, which is a unique size for all of the Casa de Monte Cristos. But it was funny because just yesterday, this is a true story. I posted something on my Instagram story, a picture of Wabash Cannonball. And I said, available exclusively at, and I tagged Casa Monte Cristo. Within 2 minutes, I got a DM, we're sold out. I'm like, oh, geez, sorry. And then they posted something that said sold out. So it looked like these things went for sale and sold out like in 30 seconds. And I had no idea they were sold out. So
they were sold out before you?
They were sold out before I posted the picture. Yeah. I mean, it's been there for a while, but I wanted to kind of throw a little shine on it. And as it turns out, they don't have any more.
So. I had one when I was down there in July. And then someone brought me one that I smoked.
Do you like it?
Gosh, Saturday, but it was 40 degrees, windy, and I was relighting it constantly, which just killed it. But the one I had in Nashville was phenomenal.
It is, and hats off to Ernesto for that one. That's Ernesto Perez Carrillo. He did that for us. It's a little 5.5 by 48, which is one of my favorite sizes. And
that's perfect size.
Money. So I texted a screenshot of the sold out to Brad Winstead, who's the CEO of Casa Monte Cristo. Said, you got to reorder. He's like, yeah, I was just going to hit you up and talk to you guys about that. So hopefully before the end of the year, we'll see another Wabash Cannonball here in Nashville.
I'd like to get down there maybe this spring sometime, summer.
Absolutely.
Schedule's crazy. So I'll have to check it out and see if there's any at the shop.
Yeah, Nashville's a great town just for everything now. Except for traffic. Traffic's been a bear.
I didn't think it was bad. Or did I just get lucky?
You must have got lucky. Or you riding Ubers and bird scooters around town. I don't know. Because
we stayed at one of the times we stayed at the Virgin up on the hill on Music Row.
Right.
And then the Omni downtown. The Omni was great because it's right there. But
yeah, I stayed at the Omni. The Omni's nice. We stayed there a couple of years ago. Did a little spend over. But there's so many boutique hotels now. There's the Bobby, the Thompson, the Joseph. It's endless. It's the landscape, skyline, what have you, of Nashville's changed so much since I moved here that it's unrecognizable for locals. You know, if you've been here for more than 10 years, it's like things have changed so much. Yeah. And like even 10 years ago, my wife and I decided to move out of the city because we just wanted more. We didn't want to be right next door to our neighbors. So we found a place that was 25 miles out of town. It was like on 2.5 acres, and it's just, you get to breathe. It's by the lake, and I love where we live. But the caveat is that it used to take me like 25 minutes to get to work, and now that commute can be an hour to an hour and a half at times. So
one way?
Yes.
Oof.
Yes.
I drove an hour to work for too long. I feel that.
Cold. Yeah, and
the way in is usually it. Well, I think there's benefits to both. The way in is always like you get to charge up a little bit before you get to the office. The way back, if you had a shit day, you can decompress before you get home.
Yeah, there's
the days that you're like, I just want to go home.
But just the physicality of the commute, it wears on you. It's just it really does, you know. And it's just it's you're constantly, you're tense, you're looking, you're making sure you're not getting in an accident. There's wrecks. It can be a grind. But I try to use the time in the car, like either making calls, sometimes, other times, most of the time, I'll either listen to music that inspires me, or I'll listen to like podcasts or YouTube interviews or all of those things that kind of find their way into the back of my head that 3 months later find their way into a brand sometimes. So I try to make the most of my time.
Very cool. If you had something to leave our audience with, what would that be?
Carve your own path. Yeah, definitely. Just chase your dreams, man. Just go for it. I mean, I always tell people, like, you know, if you have a vision or an idea that you want to do this, if you're in a room with 100 people, 90 of them are going to be too scared to fail and they won't even try. So now your odds are 1 in 10 that you're going to succeed, not 1 in 100. And it's just a matter of just doing it, because I think people fear failure more than they aspire to success. And that's not a good place to be. Just go for it. You'd be surprised.
Right. Awesome. Well, this has been great.
It's been fun, man.
Thank you so much for carving out the time. I wish I had a cigar here. I'm in That's what I got to add. I got to figure out how to get some ventilation here so I can smoke a cigar and do podcasts.
Or you can do like us and just have no ventilation and stink up the joint.
I'm at home.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want to do that. But man, if you come down to spring or whatever, just stay in touch. Are you doing the PCA show? Are you going to?
We'll be there. We'll be there.
I'll see you there.
Awesome.
We'll have a brand new booth. We'll have a brand new booth, whole new face. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's been fun.
Is there? How big of a team are you bringing with you to PCA?
Most of them are over 200 pounds, if that's what you're referring to. But no, how many guys? Geez, I don't count the bodies. I count the square footage. So this year we'll be in a 1,200 square foot area with a brand new booth that we're starting construction on literally next week. So it's going to be exciting for all of us because nobody really knows what it looks like. We've seen 3D renderings and, feel us know what we're in store for, but until it's all set up and displayed and everything, it'll be a fun thing, man. Because when we first started this, like Mike and I had 2 chairs and a backdrop in Orlando, I think was our first one. And it was 1 booth space. So it was like 10 by 10. So it was 100 square feet. So now we're in 1,200 square feet, professionally built booth for the first time. And I guess we'll have probably maybe about a dozen guys out there. So
okay.
10 to 12.
Okay.
So
very cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm excited to go. That I've never been to that event.
It's great. It's great. I look forward to it. Not for the sales part of it. It's always fun to see how people respond to what you're going to bring to the table, but just to see faces that I don't get to see throughout the year. Just even if it's like, a nudge, fist pound with Pete and swap a cigar with Dion or something. It's fun to see those guys again because we all have been doing this for quite some time. So I like that. I miss that fraternal kind of feel.
Right. That's what the cigar industry brings. It's definitely a community.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Well, awesome.
All right, bro.
Well, I'll let you go. This was great.
See you.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right, man.